Hi and welcome to Make or Repair. Today I'm going to attempt to repair this GNOME Jaguar 7106 slide projector that's about 50 years old. I suspect it'll be an entirely mechanical repair, but I think it's still quite interesting. It's going to be good to see how they've achieved swapping slides, going backwards and forwards through the pack, as well as remote focusing and driving the slide cassette itself. I suspect it's quite elegant but simple. I've undone the screw here. I have pulled out the lens, which just unscrews fully. That's a focusing mechanism, and on the side here we have a zoom mechanism. But anyway, take this out. So the problem with this, other than the fact that its plug isn't to current standards, as we can see, this works. Its fan is whirring away, that is shifting a lot of air, that's not a problem. Its light's on, and if I find the remote control and do a film advance, I'll get an annoying sound. What should of course happen is that this should slide across and backwards and forwards all the time. So we need to have a little look at that and see what's going on. Take the lens out for safekeeping, just so I don't scratch it or do something stupid with it. We can see that there is a rotating fan just here. So yeah, so this motor rotates, and it does rotate, not a problem. Let's turn that on for a second, turn that on. So we can see that that's rotating. Unfortunately, we can also see that this guy here is not rotating. So let's take that belt off for just a minute. So here we go, we'll just advance this through. And we're going to bring in the slide. So you can see the mechanism moving here and sliding across the slide using this pin. Now this slide is pretty much in place now. And this pin is going to slide down and onto the micro switch, and there goes our light. And now it doesn't move anymore, because I think this solenoid here is stopping the actuator from advancing. So we're now in position, so if I do normal, I should now be able to continue through, and it will pick up the next slide, hopefully. So something down here isn't engaging. So I have persuaded this to loosen up just a little bit, but it's still not enough. And another problem has presented, which is that let's just do a, there we go. So this now should be moving back, and it should be getting pushed, if we can see this, by a little pin down here, which is driven by this again. And so that happens like that. Which is great, and then it comes back. This is looking good. And then it'll hit the switch, turn on, and we're there. Now what happens at that point is that this little lever just here gets pushed up onto the solenoid. Great. So the idea being, when the solenoid triggers, that will fall down, and then it can engage and do the next rotation. However, as we can see, that is not staying down, and it's not falling down either. And the reason I think there should be a spring is because it has this little hook feature on the end, and down here on the corresponding piece of metal there's a hole. So I reckon there should be a tension spring in there. Let me just run it through its sort of paces. The wheel, you can see it coming back. So the worm drive goes through, it drives that cog just there. Here it is coming back. Here's its pin. Just here. So the pin's going into that slot, into a slot on here. Sliding on the slot, it's about to hit the micro switch. There we go, lights on. It continues through. If we look here, this little catchment thing catches on to this solenoid, and now the tooths on this gear are not allowing it to continue to rotate. So the worm gear is rotating freely, but that isn't going with it. Now when I say freely, I mean not very freely. I'm going to look with this. Get in there. Get on. Alright. Let's see if that behaves itself better. And now we're on. Let's bring it perfect. Super duper, and I don't actually have the power on, which is why nothing much is happening. Good. So now if this was rotating, we press the no more button. Let's bring in gauges. Back we go. Right, so that part is working. Except this wheel is still way, way stiffer than it should be. So this runs very easily, so I'm not concerned about that binding at all. But we've definitely got some difficult binding going on in this centre section. Okay, so just taking out the entire gear mechanism so I can strip it apart and just clean the whole thing right down back to the plastic, and then just apply some fresh modern grease to it. So now we should be able to see that properly. So it does move around, but it is very, very stiff. We can take it apart. That's not a huge problem. Just have a circlip holding this together. I do have a remover tool for these. I don't know why I'm playing around like that. So that goes there. Then this one. Then this. Now that is spinning, not wonderfully, but not bad. Let's get it clean. That's super. Absolutely free spinning now. So that part at least I'm happy with. So I just want to get as much of that gunk out of there as I can. You see that is now free spinning. It seems to use a friction device, so I want to just clean that off very, very thoroughly. Okay. Let's do some reassembly then. I don't know where that screw came from. Alright, we are ready to rock and roll. So basically, we need a new belt. We're up and running. But this belt is incorrect that I've got on here. And so yeah, so I just need to sort out a new belt for that. So I'm going to use this 3mm PU belt to manufacture a belt of the right size. Now, one of the benefits with this particular one is that it is quite floppy, just like the original, and it's also quite stretchy, so it'll have a little bit of forgiveness in it. Now, I'm just going to chop this end off nice and square just to get things started. That's nice. And we'll just thread it past the things that need it, and we shall pull it into the centre, and I'm afraid it's very, very difficult for me not to get my fingers in the way of this view, but we're just overlapping, pulling it so it's at the tension I want, and then I'm actually going to leave about 4mm overlap, and the reason for that is that I'm going to melt the ends of this, push them together, and so it will actually get shorter as I manufacture it. And then of course there'll be a load of glurb all around this. I don't know if glurb is a real word. There'll be a load of rubbish all the way around it that I'll have to clean off. Fastening two ends of something this small without getting a weird offset and a kink and everything can be quite a problem. So for that, I've put together a little jig system. Now, there are plenty of these on the internet if you don't like my particular design, and design is overstating it a little bit perhaps. This is just a kind of knocked together quick thing to solve this particular problem. I've decided to put springs in mine because this actually takes quite a while to cool down, and you kind of got to hold it under tension all the time. So what have we got? Well, we've got a bottom slide, and we've got two of these sort of holders. And the way these holders work, so we can pop the top off here, which is just screwed on loosely because I don't use it very often. If you want to make this properly, then, you know, by all means make it out of metal and do proper threaded screws and things. And then we'll just lie this into the groove, and literally this is just a groove cut with my table saw into a bit of scrap material. So I got a bit of scrap material about twice as long as I needed it. I cut a groove down the length and just chopped it in half and put a little chamfer on here just so I can see what I'm doing a bit better. Then I put this block on the end so I've got something to grip with my fingers when I'm using it. So this 3mm actually does sit a little bit proud of that, and the reason is I want to put this on top and actually clamp it into position really tightly. So you can see it's only sticking out the end by about 2, maybe 3mm. And we'll screw this down just so it grips it nice and tightly. I'm not overdoing these screws because I want to keep using it, but that's now tightly held in place and won't slip. The reason it's got this groove cut in the back is so that this can go up quickly and we can make quite small belts. So that is the right hand one, and it literally slips into this right hand side just here, hopefully. And as we can see, it kind of just springs into the center itself now. So let's fit the other one. Okay, and there we have it. So we've got two. Now if the springs get in the way, we can just pop them out and operate it by hand. So we can kind of see how that works in terms of trying to line things up well. So this here is a knife blade. So I've got that set, or going to have that set in a second, so that it lines up with the belt to be joined. And now I'm just going to warm it up using a bottle of gas. Obviously you could use a lighter, you could use all sorts of things for this job. From these, I mean, you see that's getting nice cherry red, so that will be plenty hot enough. So I'm just going to open this up. We'll let those just close and rest against that a little bit, and then they can rest against each other. And there we have it. If I can turn that round, you can kind of see that has splodged out in the centre. Let's hope for the best. I need to leave that for 3 or 4 minutes. So I can see that we're obviously just coming up short here a little bit. I'm not sure that's anything there was any adjustment for inside this device. And obviously we would normally be projecting these a lot further away in a considerably darker room, but this is doing a super duper job. So that was a house. Here's some people outside the house. Let's go back, hopefully, because we've got a reverse button as well as a forward button. We should be able to go back to the house, and it sticks. Okay. So still just an odd stick going on, and it's unclear why that is. I mean, that was working perfectly well in forward, and then a quick switch to reverse gave us a little bit of a problem. Yeah, it feels really tight, that, and it's hard to see why it would feel tight. Why is it tight is the question. Is it something to do with this? I think the only way we're going to find out is to run it without for a while, but okay, so down here there is the forward reverse solenoid, and I kind of wonder if it's to do with that, or whether it's to do with the way that this is running, because this is actually a little bit wobbly. I wonder if it's just running off. Although with the lid on, of course, it would be held more tightly. If I pull that out now, I should be able to just remove that and just run it in forward again and again. So there's definitely no problem there. But I do think that this thing might be just running a little bit loose. I'll have a look at that in a second. Press the button, advanced slide number 1, which it does perfectly. Reverse, and we're out of cartridge. There it is again. Now this motor is turning, just spinning on the belt, and it is really, really tight. I can't turn this, it's so tight. Right, let's turn the power off of that and just see if we can understand what is going on. So the slide is moving backwards and forwards perfectly happily. So it's not the slide that's sticking. The little plunger that goes through the slide pack seems to be free. This is seriously bound up, and it's really hard to see what it's bound up on. I'll reverse it for just a second. It feeds. Ah, there it is. It's loose. At that. So there's something down in the works down here that doesn't like what it's doing. I'm not spotting an obvious place. I think I might disassemble this side and see if it's something in here. So there are some rollers and some springs buried down in there, so like glides, if you like, for lack of a better word. Let's just see if I can get this apart. Okay. So there's not a lot of complexity just here, is there? So as this slides backwards and forwards, a pin in here is engaged in that slot, and normally is in the centre, and then as it reaches the end, which is the slide is pushed back in safely, then it moves over to one side, and when it moves over to one side, this pin moves over that is engaged with this little track in here. So that's what advances it and causes it to move along step by step. If I do that, hopefully we can see it happening. And that of course only happens at the point that the slide is fully retracted in. This little device here is actually the focusing mechanism, and inside the lens holder there's a little pin there, which is what this engages in, this helical thread engages in. And then of course if that's in a set position, then as you turn this it focuses, or as you move this, that pin moves backwards just like kind of up to about 5mm and moves the lens backwards and forwards. So it has limited focusing range. Now this device down here appears to be some form of, I would kind of say a solenoid rather than a motor, but it's just pulling this backwards and forwards against resistance. So we're energizing it in one direction or the other, and it's slowly moving this lever. Okay, so what could be causing us a problem? Because I mean, certainly the bulb holder is loose. That one won't tighten, in fact. There we go. So there we have it, bulb, reflector at the back, super duper couple of lenses. I think that'll be a heat shield just there, and then we've got another focusing lens just here. So yeah, these have got nuts on the other side, so I think that's all that's happening there, is that these are flopping around, and I suspect that this is why also we're not getting the edge of the slide, because this is not situated where it's supposed to be. Let me see if I can find a nut driver the right size for those. I'm not feeling terribly optimistic. Okay, and there's definitely no problem with this thing sliding backwards and forwards. It's running smooth and easy. I mean, it literally just rides on a few sort of glidey things. It's got a little bit of slack in it, but I can't make it stick at any point operating it manually. So when this thing pushes in, all it does is move a lever on the bottom of this. So we activate that, it moves the lever on the bottom of that. And let's see if I can show you that. And so that instead of that gateway being closed, the other one should be closed, I hope. Well, that's at least my theory. Yeah, so there we go, that one's closed now. Now that comes back where it is, it closes again, it's back in forward. So yeah, I just don't see any issues with this. I'm going to take these slides off and see if I can remove this mechanism and just see if there's anything else left to catch, because I'm not really seeing what's catching at all. So my problem is there's a screw buried down there beyond the lens, and okay, I see how the lens comes out. Okay, that's a pain. Okay, this is just too awkward, so I'm having to just remove the whole lens and light box assembly in order to get at all the slidey mechanism. Okay, and here we have it. So certainly, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. There's a bit of grease where there definitely shouldn't be, but seems to have moved around a fair bit. And a little bit of corrosion on here, but it's only surface corrosion, nothing serious. I don't think I'm going to take this one apart to gain access to these, because truthfully it's free. It's fine, absolutely full dimple just to limit its movement. And we shall just apply a teensy bit of grease underneath it just to finish off. Again, though, essentially virtually none. Now this is out as well. I'm just going to have an opportunity just to wipe down this groove, take the old grease out of it. And yeah, I am just using a WD-40 just to clean the old grease off. I don't want to leave the WD-40 on it. It's not an appropriate lubricant, but it is a handy cleaner sometimes. Excellent. So we'll just pop a little bit of a trail of grease in there, just spreading it out because it'll be more difficult for the slide to work on this. Okay, cool. Little pin that runs in that groove won't move this stuff around so much. Obviously these pins, these grooves are made of plastic and they're going to wear over time. So what else could be catching? Well, this piece of paper runs underneath, I suppose. But I mean, there really isn't anything left at this point. What's this end like? I mean, this end's fine. It's just a little thingy. I'll pop a teensy bit of grease on there. Just on each of the sides. That's it. 2 little drops, that's all we need really, I think. But that seems to be okay. There's a bit of debris down here. Come off at some point in the distant past. Some grease has dropped down and what have you. There's a locating lug just here, but it seems to be okay. What about this? So I'm noting that one side of this has a nylon bolt in it just to hold everything down. So I'm just going to have a little look and just see if I've got something similar that I can use. I really just want to make sure that all this is tucked firmly out of the way. Just as a double check to make sure that nothing is going to catch on the underside of that slide as it moves around. That's great. And we'll reinsert the slide. Now that looks actually really clean and lovely now. Let me have a look at these washers. What sort of state are these in? Well, they appear to be nylon washers, and I'm going to be honest, they're in perfectly good state. And we just need to be cautious with these, of course, just to be sure that we don't accidentally cut another thread, because some of these have had some work before and I've already got multiple threads. So we don't need any more because it will weaken it each time this is done. So we turn it anti-clockwise till it clicks, and then it should run in easily. And this should still move easily, it does. And hopefully track nicely. So I'm just wiping these off as I put them on. So to a large degree, I've done nothing more there than just clean that. Push that in reverse. Forward. Oh, it doesn't like to move, does it? Oh, that's because it hasn't gone back far enough, that's right. Let me just get my screwdriver in there ready. Where I want to be. Push him forward. Push him in reverse, that's fine, he's clicked over. He comes this way, he comes back. And pushes back again. So I think that is running reasonably well. I'm still worried about this spring, it seems to be pulling back a long way. So I don't have a better spring than that. That's the best one I had. So I'm actually going to just reduce the tension in that by literally stretching it a little bit, so that it's not such a strong spring. I think that might be better. Okay, and then we're going to have a clean around those lenses and things as I put them back together. So if this doesn't work at this point, I've kind of run out of ideas, because everything has been cleaned, all moving parts have been cleaned, lubricated, checked for function. Everything seems to be alright, apart from what isn't alright. We'll get down to the stops and we should be there. Excellent. Right, now then, let's have a look at this silly bit of spring. So this is an annoying bit of spring that just keeps this thing pressed downwards. Now, I'm not really sure why it's needed, because it doesn't exactly flop around as it is. A large portion of me, I'm going to be perfectly honest, is very tempted to just not fit it. I'm also going to just refit. I did remove a screw from the back of here. I was just trying to get things to line up nicely. Before I go too far with this, let's also just make sure I've got a screwdriver and a screw ready to go, because if only I'd realised before I put this lens in that I needed to put this spring in, life would have been quite a bit easier. But anyway, these things are what they are. So get in the hole. That's it, we are in the hole. We've made it to the first point. I'm just going to use the screw to hold that in place while I apply it in place, and that should stop that thing slopping around. But you know, I have no idea why it's there. It doesn't really seem to do much. Okay, right, what have I not fitted? Okay, heat shield in position. Good. Alright, without the secondary mechanism on here, which I haven't yet cleaned, let's give this a little run and just see if it goes backwards and forwards alright. That's a lot quieter as well. Much better. I'm feeling pretty happy with that, I think. We seem to be doing a fairly good job. And as it slides out, we can see that this side of the slot, of the little Y slot, is blocked. Let's try and reverse. And it's the other side now, and it has come back happily. And reverse. Yep, good. Okay. So I think I'm happy with that. I mean, there's nothing else we can do. Everything has been cleaned and lubricated and reassembled. Every screw has been unscrewed. Everything has been inspected. There are a few cracks here and there in the plastic. It's not going to last forever. But yeah, not bad at all. And if we look up on the screen here, whatever that is looking nice and sharp. Absolutely fine. We can adjust the focus very easily. And I think that this lens configuration is for kind of a long distance viewing rather than the short viewing. But it's absolutely fine. I'm completely happy with that. And that is pretty clean. Most of the marks you can see are actually on the board, not the lenses anymore. So that's nice. Okay. I mean, seriously, this thing is floating easily. There's just no resistance to this moving around whatsoever. This is just the tensioner that holds the cartridge in place, and that's just a spring, so there's nothing going on there either. This is a bit of a nothing to be seen here part of the mechanism, to be honest. We'll just get some cleaning done. So I can't remember when I lost so many screwdrivers and tweezers and God knows what else. Right, so we'll just take that off, and now I should be a lot freer to position the this carriage mechanism. So I think that's correct. So we'll just pull this in and out and just make sure it works. Absolutely spot on, beautiful. And just like before, you feel for the place of the thread before you do it. So do that one, and then we shall reattach him. There are locating lugs, so there's no difficulty. Most of it, to be honest, there's not really a lot of difficulty dealing with it. I think we're there. Well, for better or worse, this is where it's going to be now. Fingers crossed then. And just change camera. So there's my image projected nicely on the board, and it's running about 16 inches across. And yeah, let's hope for the best. Okay, excellent. I don't necessarily know where these places are. These are all way before my time in the family, but there we have it. Superb. I think we are there. Let's get this turned off and packaged up, I think. Given back to the owners. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me just find a different slide. Yeah, we seem to be running nicely in both directions. Okay, so there we have it. I think we are pretty much up and running. I'm not going to run through all of these slides because they're probably personal to the family, but this is most certainly running backwards and forwards. It seems to not be glitching anymore now that I've cleaned out those last few bits and pieces. So a very mechanical repair, not my normal thing, of course, because I'm normally dealing with electronics, but hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I'll see you next time. I think we'll be back to some more traditional electronics, and I've got a couple of makes on the go. Capacitance leakage, capacitance discharge for reasonably high voltage capacitors. So, you know, hopefully we'll have some interesting stuff for you over the next few weeks. See you soon. Bye for now.